Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about my job board pipeline. I am working on it. I think it's getting to the state where I'm nearing the end of its life cycle. And I think it'll be good. It'll be a good video to talk about here because of the system design. Kind of give updates on where I'm at with Byte Go's recent publication of their behavioral interviews with Steven. Really great resource. Would recommend it. I'm gonna attach it to this video. I'm going to just mention it now. Where I last left off in a previous video was this high-level design of this portfolio. Talking about the local AI whisper model in this pipeline. So for today, let's talk about this pipeline, which I'll highlight in, let's see, orange for now. I think the job board's interesting. Let me pull up some notes on the lifecycle development. Let me see. So it's probably my projects. There's some interesting takeaways, and then on the system design aspect of this in my notes that are public. Let's see. I think it's down here. Lifecycle. Yeah. So the one that I'll be discussing today is a bit of a combination of. Excuse me. After the deploy, we're getting to the point where I'm maintaining things, and so. I want to go over the high-level design, and then deep dives will be talking about the bottlenecks and some of the interesting things with not just rate limiting, but like how far I can scale vertically and how this has been affecting the scalability of this design. It's a little bit of integrated machine learning because I am using OpenRouter for the small language models, and I am using Gemini for the large language text. I've yet to still work on the internally hosted small language model to maybe help with some of the bottlenecks, but we'll talk about that. Okay. And then as I work through these and make these videos, I think it's helpful even for myself to, identify my familiarity with these different life cycles. More professionally at work, I've been doing more data engineering. And so trying to find common threads to abstract things at a higher level. Okay. I think I wanted to show the life cycles for the project pipeline for the job board. We'll just consider these my notes. Right now, my session limits on Claude are on cooldown. I've maxed them out, so I'm waiting for them to reset. That's why I'm making this video. And I currently have the base features set up. And then I'll be tracking and including the progression of this project and the next steps for this, which now includes a small language model. Then maybe later I'll integrate the internally hosted quantized model here. Okay, so for now, this is the job board. So I guess for this one we'll do here. So the job board, let's see. So let me just make it cleaner. Let me just start another page here. Let's do this again. So we have zero cost architecture. All right. This one, very similar. We have Vercel as our portfolio landing page. This is acting as our compute for our front end. All right. So the job board actually is no longer just Gemini. Okay, because this is a text-to-text large language model. All right, so what's happening is my data sources are actually, I have NVIDIA, and I have Apple. Apple's preferred personal preference of like places I would actually work at. And then NVIDIA because I'm working on C++ and CUDA work, so it makes sense. Why not work there? So these are directly from their job portal, right? Because part of the design of the job board. What are the heuristics we are designing to implement? So here's some of the design considerations. One of them is being applied directly on the job board because we want to apply within 24 hours of posting, right? So rather than going through aggregators and job boards, let's just go directly there. Of course, we need a resume agent, and some of the things for that are like 1 to 2 pages, ATS keywords, summary, maybe technologies, blah, blah, blah. 2.2 should be tailored specifically to the job. Okay. Because then you get interviews, hopefully. So that's really what you want. The resume is just to like get past the interviews. Okay, so that's that's the design of this job board. And we'll say 3 interview prep is out. Scope of the job board. The job board is supposed to help us actively outbound apply to jobs to get interviews. Okay, so interview prep, I have that on my own notes here on my portfolio. I'm also working on this, and I've been making these videos to help with that. So the design of this will be helping us identify where we would actually want to work. Okay, so here's the ingestion pipeline. I'll keep it pretty. I'm trying to keep this video shorter than usual. So we have, I mainly do Apple, and there's a reason why. For the sake of demonstration, I'm going to try to ingest both. So the thing with the ingestion that I have, currently this is 9 a.m. We check for new roles. 5 p.m. or let me do Pacific. 9 a.m. Pacific. PSC time, because that's local time for me. All right, so here's the thing. These are local. I'm actually okay. Once on site, so that helps with some of the time zone stuff. So therefore hybrid. Yeah, it'd be nice to have some remote. But if we have remote, we have other considerations. But that's out of scope for the job board. So Pacific, PST. I have mine designed so that I'm ingesting at the start of business hours, at the end of business hours, and then similarly at night. And in case there are postings that people would do outside of work, which is possible, and then try to catch things early in the morning. So basically every 4 hours, I'm cycling through and checking for new roles that are ingested. Okay. So that could be a lot. So you do some due diligence and you do some pre-processing. So one of the pre-processing things you do is you go on the website and feed in pre-selected roles by skills, teams, titles. Okay, let's just start with that. Conceptually, I've done this already in the code. The video will be too long if I show it, but you do the same thing on the video. All right, let me just show the quirks with some of their jobs. For example, the video. Their wording for their date is a little bit weird. They have accepting applications at least until this date. All right. So you run into like really weird, like little quirky things with data. Like, well, this is all unstructured text. Applications for this job will be accepted until at least August 23, 26. This isn't standard ISO format compared to, let's say, Apple, right? So Apple does have a clean date that we can use for one of their jobs. Close this. All right, so posted August 2019 or AUG 19, 2026. So you see that there's a little bit of like text nomenclature that we have to clean up and standardize into our own database and be able to query things. And so I've standardized it to year, month, and date. So that's how these little quirky things come up. I've kind of spoiled it already, but we can see I have a ranker. All right, so I'm using another small language model using OpenRouter to do this. OpenRouter has a bottleneck of 50 requests per day, which technically means I'd be able to do a maximum of 50 resumes a day. So that's the layer 2, right? So then we do maybe red. So the first one, was initial manual selection of relevant roles. You know, we can couple this with deterministic string cleanup, which I have. Text cleanup via code. All right, so I have this. Maybe I'll just make this obnoxiously big, and then, well, we'll do it here. All right, and so the next thing I have is OpenRouter small language model text. I'm using this over re-ranker models, and then the small language model only for ranking, not rationale. Even though it can output rationale, I don't want to unintentionally use excessive tokens and like API requests when I don't need to. And for me, at the end of the day, like I'm not really using the rationale from the small language model anyway. And there's a reason for that, because I just needed to parse and actually implement the other heuristic here. So the other heuristic that we have is like, oh, if you see a job that you think you're like 50% qualified for, apply. It's just a wish list anyway, right? So here, let me zoom in, sorry. Right, so if you see a job that's like, you think you're qualified and like, you can do the job, and let's say you're 50% qualified, then sure, right? So here's the other heuristic. This is the small language model that we're using to pre-filter additional things out from a semantic perspective, but from an applied machine learning perspective, okay? So the bottleneck here is, you know, we could be ingesting, let's say more than 50 jobs. Because the thing is that the other rolling bottleneck is once we get into here, actually I need to expand this because technically the Vercel job board is our front end, right? So let's move this now. So so this is just for demonstration. If we actually think about this a level higher, this is actually all just GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions. That kicks off everything. You know, so this kicks off the scheduling. Vercel's kind of a watcher in this case, because the thing with the GitHub Actions is, let's see. So we have the Vercel. We'll call this the backend, and then we'll do one for the front end. Okay, and there's a reason for this actually. We'll put the front end down here. All right. So what makes this interesting is the GitHub Actions. You know, I have a pipeline that scrapes and watches the direct company job boards every 4 hours, basically. It goes through OpenRouter small language model. The constraint here is that it's about 50 requests per day, right? So then what is a day? Well, let's just say it's like we'll just define it the same as Gemini's rolling window, which is 24 hours from last call. Or, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not so clean where like it completely resets. It's like the last time you did a call, 24 hours later it resets. So you can have like have a rolling window like that. So you could do that to do kind of like a semi-batch process. Even I'm trying to figure this out, so I don't overload my own system. And then the thing is, once we go from here to the small language model, this should only be, I have mine set at 60%. If I need more, I think I'll do, let's say, no more than 80%, I think. Because I don't want it to, I don't want to lose jobs. You know what I mean? I have noticed there are some jobs that I saw on my own job board that, even though they're least relevant, I would like still apply to them. I don't think it was Apple. Like, I'd be interested in this. Like, some of these are, I'd be interested in still applying to, but, you know, this is just a way to kind of help filter out some of the things that I think would be helpful to automate in the resume preparation process, because at the end of the day, this is all free anyway. I might as well token max the free architecture and rolling window of everything. So I'm not too picky, and then I am paying for Claude code, so then I'll just use my tokens that I'm already paying for jobs that I might not be least relevant for, but at least I'm capturing them. Right, so we're starting to think about some of the baseline features, the design at different tiers. All right, so I will write this down. I think this is important. But this is generally where we're getting to at the high level design. We're ingesting 4 times a day, as real time realistically as you can get. And then, yeah, I could process each one, but at the moment I'm processing all of these once a day for now. Maybe I'll think about it, because I am using the API limits here for other things. So right now it's once a day, and then the backend, let's see. So let's do this vertically. Let's go down. Okay, so the thing with the backend is this actually feeds into data storage. All right, so I have 2 things. I have Blob Storage. Okay, so this is for the PDFs. And then I'm using Neon over Supabase because I wanted something lighter weight and nothing so tightly coupled. And then I'll just put underneath Serverless Postgres. Okay, so I just needed a relational database. I didn't want to deal with any of the server management stuff and some of the other cloud providers. Generous free tier. It works for the scale and size of this project. Okay, so for the resumes themselves, they are feeding out of the job board, or the agent that I have, to Blob. Some of the deterministic scripts that I have are keeping track of jobs that I've applied to. I haven't gone to OpenRouter. Let me add a box here. And then I'll do that's probably better. Deterministic. Alright, so I have some code that I have, and then I'll put this as a different color because I think this is important. I should go back and forth a little bit between the Postgres database that I have and the deterministic pipeline as code. And the reason for that is because I'm capturing some of the metadata. And that might clean things up. So I have, the title, rec ID, job description, right? Because this is the extraction. And this is the initial schema. And the reason why I go back and forth is because there are things with the reasoning that I actually do here that I'm going to do orange. That is important because I think that's fine. Once I get the initial information, the thing that happens with the Postgres database is there's some cool stuff that I have behind the scenes where I have a high-throughput model. I think this is Flash 3.1 flashlight, I think. It's like 500 requests. And this is actually where I iterate and add on reasoning. Let's say rational. Okay, so what's wrong with my resume? It tries to iterate. Based on golden dataset. And then if it can't, then it's gonna ping it to high. This is, the pro model, like whatever it is. And these are usually like 20 requests. So this is also why I'm trying to like not overload requests and make sure things are high quality data going to the large language model. Because in the beginning of this, I was running into request and session limits with trying to make every resume for every job posting that came in. And so it was just honestly unreasonable for the vertical ceiling that I have to design around. So in combination with some deterministic scripts, I'm adding this layer here to kind of filter out some semantic relevancy. I'm intentionally using a small language model for performance reasons over re-rankers, and not having to train my one from scratch myself. I'm not quite there yet in like the design of my overall career and portfolio right now. I think it's more important that I focus on the applied concepts and having something to talk about and demonstrate, because ultimately this is still also not demonstratable, I think, as I progress more into more hands-on and things from scratch. Kind of hinted at this verbally, but we're outlining out the abstraction layer where we're still just using applied existing frameworks and models. I think there would be better value add in being able to go through the exercise of deploying. I don't know if I want to train my own model, but at least quantizing a model, because this might help with not just I don't think about the latency, but maybe the requests. But the other thing too, now that I'm on this tangent, is I would actually consider moving another away from this Hugging Face platform, because this is serverless in a way where it's not persistent servers. And based on my, like, I'll say research, Oracle Cloud does offer CPU bound persistent servers that I could possibly use for inference. I moved back from Hugging Face because I wanted to have a better understanding of GPU, and I figured I might as well use the CPU. But actually for this project, it wouldn't be, it might be okay. It's just that I have, the 4-hour overlaps. I think it would be fine, but it would be convenient to always have that persistent server, I guess, if I have something, that's always ongoing. But these are the like system design considerations regarding like a persistent server and the trade-offs between these other providers based on like the cloud and the, what they offer. Since we're generally not always going to have our own infrastructure like this, and we'll be relying on other either native providers or third-party providers. And the difference between that is, like with Vercel, for example, I'd consider that like a third-party cloud provider than AWS, since Vercel is built on AWS. I think Oracle in that case would be a direct provider. It really depends if the company has their own hardware that they're servicing, or if it's something like Vercel that's wrapped around an existing cloud provider. So that's what I mean by third-party or native. Okay, so here are all these are me thinking out loud. Like, this is a very much real world. I've already done this. You see it live. That's a very common interview question I got. I want to keep this video short. I know it's already 25 minutes, but I think there's a lot of like interesting insights and considerations, like the native versus third-party cloud and persistent versus serverless approaches. I think I'm almost done. Let's see. So yeah, so this goes back and forth. The request, it pings as a fallback. I tried concurrency, I broke it, and then I just reverted back to 1 because it was fun for an experiment, but it was actually causing issues and unintentional engineering overhead that honestly I just didn't want to deal with it. So I just kept it simple and just continued with sequential. Okay, cool. So for this, I also have a fallback. The GitHub action actually expires if it runs more than 4 hours. Maybe I'll extend that. I don't think that's that of an issue. It's more of a like I need to maybe have better testing for the ops side of the scale down aspect of the ops, but haven't had issues so far. I think I can share this on my email. Let me pull it up. All right, so cool. I'm almost done. I'll wrap up here. All right, I got it. So here's the thing, right? So it's cool that I have the backend for the Blob and the Neon Postgres serverless Postgres that monitors the data that I can interact with, and you know when it's ready, I can push it. But actually, the main user is me, and maybe people who want to use this. And one of the features that I would want is email notifications. Okay, so what I did was I should email myself, maybe others. You know, make your own, like there's already stuff out there that like you can sign up for. And for me, this is supposed to be a interviewing thing, so it's not like a service. I can make it a service, but I'd feel bad making people pay for something like this. Yeah, so the email thing is, it sends me the scores that I'm a good fit for. I gotta fix it once I've done this video. You know, it's also true that I have, let's do blue. I also have, I don't want to do that. I want to do, that's fine. Let's just do this for now because the video, I want to end it soon. Yeah, it's also true that I have similar information going back and forth between the email and the Vercel front end. Okay, so the Vercel front end, just before we'll get to the email, then we'll wrap up, is like all this other nice features that I have, like posts that are older than 30 days. Hey, the default relevancy is by date. Actually, I gotta change that to date. Most relevant, you know, scores, highest to lowest, least relevant, lowest high. I can't believe that's 0. That's really funny. And then by company. Okay, so either all company or NVIDIA. I currently have 2. I'm intentionally not backfilling. I'd rather just move forward, and as time goes on, I am pruning and dealing with stale data. I think I currently have no more than, I think, 6 months. I might change it to 3, but I did get insight from recruiters that it's still actually worth it to apply for roles that are high quality that have been posted for more than 6 months, or 3 to 6. But you know, since I'm moving forward, I'm not necessarily interested in older roles. Fortunately, I am still employed, so that's less of a concern. So, you know, now we're talking about like the real world applications of our design that we just sketched out. Let me show the email and then I'll wrap up. Okay, so in the email, I'll hide all these for now, maybe. Yeah, so it's another package. I think it's on TypeScript. All this is on TypeScript. Because I'm on the web. And for the GitHub actions, yeah, so I'm by design, I wanted the hyperlink to the job post. There's no reason why I can't have this. It's already in the Postgres database and I'm sourcing it anyway. So it goes directly there. I'll get rid of this. It's a plugin I was using before all this. So that I can manually apply. So that's the thing with Apple. Apple is really difficult to actually like automate applying. And I think you're going to find that with some of the direct company job boards, as opposed to like Greenhouse or some of the third-party aggregators that's more easily accessible to automatically apply. So that's how those work, by the way. So I am manually applying to these. That is by design because I would actually work here. This is where I last left off in the current status of the vibe coded project, just to try to end up in one or two more minutes. The next things that I will be doing is I will be keeping this. I don't really want the description because the thing is, like, once I see the fit, then I'll consider whether or not, based on the title from personal preference, if I want to actually go through with this or not. Because what's not here is the resume. Okay, so for whatever reason, I don't know why, but even though there's a high score, the deterministic ingestion pipeline went through, it scored it. For whatever reason, there wasn't a resume that was tailored, even though when I was looking at the logs earlier, it did. So I don't know what's going on there for this path, but we can see that it going through here for the Neon path for their the data that I have sourced from the job description. That's going through here, and then it is feeding to the email. Okay, so this is also why having a high-level design could help debug some of these things and like some of the mental models and mapping. So this is cool. This is also basically directly from their job description here, right? So quote unquote copy paste. I am extracting this directly from the source. It's a little bit redundant. I know there's no tokens for this because it's all deterministic code. So yeah, it's that's interesting that it's 5. But yeah, so there's other considerations to the design, like whether or not I only want 60 or above, or if I want all of them. At the moment, I want all of them in my email. I will decide whether or not to apply and make the decision based on roles as they come in to tailor them. It would be convenient if there's resumes that are already tailored, but in this way, this is actually faster than when you sign up to their own job portal. And I know because I've actually applied to their newsletters and signed up for their direct company newsletters, and I find that this is more proactive, and is able to is able to capture some of the jobs that might not fit their criteria but fits my criteria, if that makes sense. And of course, like once I have that data, then I can do other things with it. Yeah, just use it as a data source. So that's this video. I hope some of the conversations I've had with myself talking about cloud providers was helpful. I think talking about how I've integrated OpenRouter and the difference between like a third-party cloud small language model hosted versus let's say my own native like infrastructure built on other people's infrastructure, but making something more in-house, like a model in-house built on other cloud providers. The trade-offs there, I think that's an interesting conversation. And again, really why we're doing this is to be able to, we'll go backwards, be able to apply what we're learning in the technologies and the skills that we're demonstrating to enterprise scale, all at zero cost.